It's the Tea Party in today, talking about their faith and values as we approach the election, just 19 days away.
Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. It is the 18th day of October in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Thursday edition of The View from a Pew. Welcome. We appreciate you being here. As always, we know you have lots of choices on lots of things. You can download, upload, iPod, podcast, blog, YouTunes, I don't know, whatever it is. But for some reason, you've taken the time to tune in to us today, and we appreciate it. If you're listening on the radio, you're listening to 99.3 FM, KTIA, and if you're on the web, well, there's several places you could be, but chances are you're at webcastonelive.com, and we appreciate you being here. I've got some great guests today. We continue our conversations as we get closer and closer to the elections and how Christians should vote in the voting booth. And you can imagine how many different opinions we have on this. There are more opinions on this than there are pumpkins in the patch. But we listen to them all, and so far we've been congratulated,
and
Tom.
we're reasonably respectful.
I was just going to say,
That's debatable.
We've been told that we're reasonably respectable.
Well, I don't know about, maybe not with Dan, but most of the other guests get good respect.
Well, but see, Dan's a far left-wing liberal nut job.
I don't know that we can peg him in that way. He's a nut job. There's no question about that.
No question about that?
But I don't know we can say he's on the far left or the far right. He's just a nut job.
Maybe he just dropped out of the floor.
Yeah.
Just he's right in the middle and he dropped.
There's one thing I'm not, and that's far left.
You're not far left?
No.
Okay. But your vote's going to put Obama in the White House.
I'm not voting, so that would be impossible.
There. We'll start out the program, as we have in the last few days, with the incredible McCoy Coates for president and vice president campaign spot.
You guys are in for a treat here.
That Mr. Dan did. Now, do you have any headphones over there? You don't, do you? Here.
Yeah, you need to be able to listen to this now.
Plug those babies in and give this a listen. Because let me tell you something, this is high test. I got a call the other day from, what's that, Rove guy.
Carl Rove?
He wanted to hire Dan.
He wanted to hire Dan.
He thinks this is so good. And by the way, I've got the latest Rasmussen poll here.
Uh-huh.
Romney's at 58%, so that's higher than he was yesterday. And Obama is at 41%, and you and I have... Well, we received 5 write-ins so far.
Well, and I saw the Gallup. Yesterday, the Gallup had it 51-45, a 6-point lead. Today, It's 52-45, a 7-point lead on the 7-day rolling average. And we know that Gallup is still using a demographic reminiscent of the 08 versus where it would normally be on the demographics. But anyway, Mac, you and I are fighting an uphill battle, but we're still hanging in there, right?
We are. All right, let's see this incredible ad.
Barack Obama's health care plan, he forced businesses to pay for abortions. Under Mitt Romney's instituted health care in the state of Massachusetts, they allowed for up to a $0 copay in state-funded abortion. J. Michael McCoy has never voted for or signed into law any pro-choice bill. How is Paul Ryan going to help reduce the deficit? He doesn't know. He hasn't checked the numbers. Barack Obama and Joe Biden have effectively quadrupled the deficit. Tom Coates is a proven fiscal conservative whose business is debt reduction. Don't call it a comeback, but this team is going to be moving forward. J. Michael McCoy and Tom Coates.
I'm J. Michael McCoy, and I'm running for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Americans who want better choices and the I'm not voting for any of these clowns super PAC.
See, we're trying to drive that undecided voter over to Romney because they certainly, if we're the third choice, they're not gonna. I don't think. Ken, could we get a Tea Party endorsement today? My guess is
I'm going to
no.
have to think about that.
No, don't even think about it. It's a passed-on foreclusion. All right. On a serious note, we do have Ken Crow here. We're honored to have him. He's the co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com and the vice president of Restoring America Project.org. You've heard their TV ads. And Steve McCoy, who is running for District 26 in Warren County. It's all in Warren County?
Yes, it is.
Step up a little bit to the microphone.
Yeah, it's all in Warren County.
Okay.
And I saw Steve sign.
Yeah, and
I initially thought it was you, Mac. I thought you were running for something.
I know. But you knew better than that.
We're trying to make it work.
I knew you were running from something. I didn't think you were running to anything.
Trying to make it serve two purposes here.
Well, my son-in-law told me about it, and I said, "Oh, it doesn't look like me." So he went down and took a picture of it.
Yeah.
Sent it to me, and I went, "Oh, my heavens." But we are not related.
No.
We spell our names differently, but we do have white hair. But you're much better groomed than I am. I just kind of let it go. But anyway. All right. First question. Why? Why do you want to get into politics? Because Warren County isn't an easy place. You don't have the friendliest newspaper down there.
Well, I don't want to get into politics. In fact, I'll quote Charles de Gaulle. Politics is far too important to be left up to politicians.
I like that.
But the reason that I'm in the race is because I have 16 grandchildren, the 17th on the way.
Wow.
And I cannot see any future for them at all if someone doesn't stand up and say enough is enough and just start calling everybody to the carpet.
Calling a spade a spade.
That's right. And it makes no difference what party. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And, there's an important issue that gets missed in all elections. And when I go and knock on doors, I don't tell people I'm a candidate. I tell them I'm applying for a job.
Yep.
And that seems to be forgotten. And it's real simple. If we can just simply remember that all representatives are employees and help the employers, we the people, grab a hold of the fact that they are the employers and challenge them to be responsible for their employees, I think we can change things.
Yeah, you talk about the inmates running the insane asylum.
Exactly.
That's just crazy. All right. And you are a Tea Party member.
Yes, I am.
Now, define for me why you're a member of the Tea Party.
Well, the Tea Party is an interesting concept because here we are today, 2012, people still trying to define it. And the news media's tried it. They fell miserably. The Beltway boys fell miserably. All the political pundits fell miserably because they keep trying to make it a party instead of a movement.
Okay.
Now, my analogy is this. April 23rd, 1985, something happened. The Coca-Cola Company decided to change the formula. Within 3 months, there was such a public outcry that they had to bring back the original version, which they now call Classic Coke. Tea Party movement is nothing more nor less than the people, we the people, sick and tired of the bitter taste that's been left in our mouth because the two parties have changed the formula. We just want to go back to the original formula.
Steve McCoy, is one of our guests today. He's a candidate. He's applying for the job to be your state legislator in District 26. Also with us today, Ken Crow, co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com and the vice president of Restoring America Project.org. Now, you have been a part of the Tea Party movement since there was really a Tea Party.
Well, the original Tea Party dates back to, 17?
Well, I know you're not that old.
No, I go back about 3 years to, when all this started, about 3 years ago. And it's growing. It's growing abundantly, and it's growing rapidly. You're starting to see a shift, though. In the beginning, it was protests and rallies and what have you. The mall filled up in Washington, D.C., and our Capitol here in Des Moines filled up, the steps and what have you, and a lot of big rallies around. But what you're starting to see now is a shift to more grassroots, more organization. It's actually better organized today than it was 2 or 3 years ago. And there's a lot of education going on. One of the major groups is even putting up grant money. If you're a smaller Tea Party group, say Santa Fe, for instance, and you call them up and say, I need grant money, we want to do flyers and voter guides and things like that, this group is actually paying for it, giving you the grant money to print them, and they're being distributed by all the members.
Wow.
And there's an undercurrent going on that the American people doesn't know about right now. The media doesn't know about it. Nobody knows about it, but it's there, and it is massive. And we're getting ready to open up TeaPartyCommunity.com to the public, and that's going to be the new Facebook for the Tea Party.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it does everything Facebook does, but on steroids.
TeaPartyCommunity.com.
Yes, sir.
Is it on now, or is it
yes,
still
sir. It's on. You can join.
It
We just haven't done the national press releases until next week for it. But it's going to be a monster, and it's going to be the main gathering place, we hope, for all of the Tea Parties to come to.
Tom Coates is with us today, as always, and we were talking before the mics came open, and you said, what, $1 trillion?
Yes, between state and federal spending annually on welfare. Now, we've never seen anything like that.
It's $1 trillion.
Yes.
And Steve, I liked what you had to say. You kind of broke down what $1 trillion is for us.
Well, these numbers are so large that the average person can't wrap their mind around it. So I converted it to seconds. 1 million seconds is 12 days ago.
Okay.
1 billion seconds is 32 years ago. 1 trillion, which Tom just mentioned, and we as a nation are 16 trillion and climbing. Unfunded mandates were about 120 trillion. 1 trillion seconds, 31,688 years.
Wow.
31,000?
31,688 years.
Wow. That's older than you.
Both of us combined. No, and we talked about it. I think, Mac and guys, that people, they just kind of tune out when they hear these numbers. The old Rayburn quote about $1 million here, $1 million there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. Then it became $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. And that's why on my PowerPoint I mentioned to you that I have a visual that kind of goes to this point with $100 bills, shows what $1 million looks like, $1 billion, and then the next screen shows this massive numbers of $100 piles of $100 bills showing what $1 trillion is. And I think if the people could come to grips, with what $1 trillion is and how it's being thrown around by current administration, $1 trillion annual deficit, as if it's nothing. And yet you are obligating not only this generation but future generations to a position of servitude, because the Bible says that the borrower becomes the slave of the lender. Mm-hmm. That was a quote made from Solomon, going back when he was the wisest king of all time. And it is true today as it was true then. We are becoming so indebted as a nation, not just individuals, but as a nation, that we are being sold into servitude for the $1 trillion annual welfare spending that we're doing for things that are not only not productive, they're counterproductive. When you're putting, we've got a 50% increase in food stamps since Obama's taken office. Those kinds of things put us into a position of dependency as a nation. And I know that some of these things are right in you guys' wheelhouse. The Tea Party is as concerned about these things as any entity in the country. Am I wrong or not?
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's probably the ideology that drives the Tea Party. It's this concept that the government has decided that our money is their money. I tell people, look, if you get a refund back on your income tax,
that's your money.
You need to realize this is your money. It's not a gift. And think about this. They didn't even pay you interest when they gave it back to you.
Steve McCoy is my guest, a candidate looking to have you hire him in District 26, along with Ken Crow, TeaPartyCommunity.com, and, of course, Tom Coates. We're coming back live on The Truth, 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Ever feel like there's more to life? God offers more. Chat now with an online coach at groundwire.net.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Have you ever been told you're not a good enough Christian? Well, we have too. Join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. Now here's your host, president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club, J. Michael McCoy.
Okay, welcome back. 21 minutes after 3 o'clock, the 18th day of October in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Thursday edition of The View from a Pew. Tom Coates in the house, along with Steve McCoy, no relation, running for District 26 legislative job. He'd like you to hire him.
Mac, I heard something, Steve, in that first segment. You mentioned that you were going door to door and knocking on doors. Mac, is that something that we need to think about with our campaign?
I think we should. I think we ought to start knocking on doors and introducing ourselves as the viable alternative to lesser of the two evils.
Would 10 minutes a day be enough, you think, for us, Steve? I don't know how much time I could devote to this effort.
Well, Mac would have a little advantage over you, especially if he came to Warren County, because they would just probably think it was me knocking again.
That's right.
Well, actually, we could give our flyers to Steve, and he could just hand them out for us.
Wait, I like that idea.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a lazy guy. I like that idea.
That's a good use of time
Can I throw my 2 cents in here? I'm concerned about this because I'm afraid you guys are going to pull off so many votes in Iowa that the enemy may end up winning the state. And we've got a really close contest going on here.
I know. We were concerned about that. But what we do is we lie a lot, Tom and I do, So the people who are going to vote for Obama can really relate to us because we lie so much. So we're hoping to draw those people away from Obama and Biden.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see Tom in the vice presidential debate?
I missed that. I missed that.
But we lied and told people he was there, too. So, man, these libs love us. Let me tell you. All right, we've been talking a little bit about the Tea Party and how it is not going away. And I love, Steve, what you said. It's a movement.
Right.
Will that movement... here, let me back up. And maybe, Ken, I'm going to ask you this.
Sure.
How will we see the presence of the Tea Party on the day after the elections?
Be my speculation, probably take a day off, recuperate, enjoy our victory, and then get to work for the midterms. I know that's what we're doing.
All right. And are we going to see more Tea Party candidates
Yes.
get elected?
Yes.
And more people want to be a part of the Tea Party in the future?
Absolutely. Promise you.
Okay, good. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
It's not going away. America's angry. America, you got to understand who makes up and comprises the Tea Party. The Tea Party today is mostly comprised of your old Reagan Republicans, your very, very conservative Democrats, and your Christian coalition. That, the old Christian coalition from Pat Robertson and all that, that is primarily the makeup, is the conservative wing of the Republican Party, and they're angry. They're very angry, and they want to return this nation to our moral character that we once had, our financial standing, and they're angry about it, and they're going to get it done, I promise you.
Okay, I want to ask you a tough question.
Sure.
New York Times reported today that Romney was quoted as saying that unless the Supreme Court does something about Roe versus Wade, or there is a public outcry by the majority of Americans, he's not going to touch the abortion issue. As a Tea Partier, how do you feel about that?
Well, as a Tea Partier, I'm, of course, angry, but I never put all my chickens in Governor Romney's emotional basket, if you will. I, like so many more Tea Partiers across America, and I'm going to speak for all of us right now, very few of us were pro-Romney in the beginning. That you saw it happen here in Iowa. We'll bring it home here to Iowa. Governor Romney never really campaigned here, did he?
No.
He never didn't show up. And what happened was you had Tea Party factions that were supporting Speaker Gingrich. Some were supporting Congresswoman Bachmann, Perry, and on down the line. And it split that vote. And Romney knew what was happening. And he just showed up 9 days ahead of time with $1.5 million in television advertising and walked out of here with effectively a win, or give or take 8 or 10 votes or whatever it was. And that's what happened. Well, it's not going to happen again. Your Tea Party saw what happened. That's why Romney's the nominee. And these leaders around the country are beginning to come together, and they're realizing what has to be done. And I don't think you'll ever see this happen again.
Well, you saw it happen 4 years earlier also, Ken, and in that case, it was Romney, and it was the Huckabee locked up on the conservative side. They were splitting the conservative vote, and McCain stepped in there.
That's right.
And he, with far less than a majority, but he was the moderate candidate and did the same thing at that point. Now, obviously, we're seeing a much more vigorous effort in the general election than we saw from McCain. McCain was an absolute disaster and disappointment 4 years ago. But in essence, what you just said happened 4 years earlier, and unfortunately we ended up with a McCain who didn't really seriously want to engage a young Barack Obama.
Well, that's correct. And to answer Mr. McCoy's question a moment ago, none of the Tea Party was actually behind the governor. They were all splintered all over the place behind Perry and Bachmann and everybody else. Nobody wanted him. We knew this, what you're speaking about. The Tea Party as a whole is inherently very, very conservative when it comes to social issues like abortion and gay marriage and all that. We're pretty much down the biblical line on that sense for the most part. And it's not good, but right now this is a desperate situation. We're jumping in behind because right now we're to the point of it's anybody but Obama. And that's where we're at.
True. Right. Now, Ryan is philosophically much more aligned with where the average Tea Party person would be. Am I
Yes.
correct in that?
Yes, sir, you are.
So you had to be pleased when he chose a Paul Ryan versus a mushy liberal to moderate to at least try to, which I guess is what McCain did again. I mean, he went with Sarah Palin, which appeased some of us that didn't think that McCain was nearly conservative enough. That didn't come off well. It looks like we've got a much different dynamic working this time, though, doesn't it? Besides that, we don't have a blank slate of 4 years. We've got a 4-year record of Barack Obama. We don't have a young hope and change blank slate coming in. That's why I think, guys, and maybe you can disagree with this, but there was such mushy support for Obama that it was very much like 1980. When Jimmy Carter was a failed president, his economy was in the dumper, we had hostages in Iran, the people were waiting to see if Ronald Reagan can perform, and after the debate, before the debate, he was still trailing Jimmy Carter in the polls. After the debate, when Reagan showed that he could come off as presidential, it swung hard, and he ended up winning that election by 10. It looks like that same dramatic shift is taking place. Romney showed himself now on both debates, and the vice presidential debate to boot. Both he and Ryan have shown themselves as presidential. And, again, we don't have a blank slate. We've got a 4-year record of failure, both foreign policy and national economy. I think this is a situation very similar to 1980. I think that's the closest analogy that I can draw.
I think you're 100% correct. And to address what you just said a minute ago, I happen to know that a lot of pressure was put on Governor Romney, and he knew he was in trouble, and he knows he needs the Tea Party. And that's one of the principal reasons he selected Congressman Ryan, and I've been told that. I don't know the accuracy of it.
Sure, I've heard that.
But I do know for a fact that they were receiving a lot of mail in Boston at his national headquarters.
You know, you can say what you want, and they have been saying that the Tea Party movement is a movement that has no effect. But the truth of the matter is, it's the Tea Party movement that is the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. But it's the elephant in the room that is affecting decisions and pulling coalitions together.
What do you say to those on the conservative Christian right who won't vote for Romney because either he's a Mormon or he doesn't take a hard line on gay marriage or abortion?
You know, and I've been having this conversation with several on the hard right. One of them's a radio announcer, by the way. My statement to him was this: you know, you have, and this is a hard word, and it's a hard word to say about our president, but you know, you have evil on one side. There's no doubt in my heart and mind about this. I'm sure the man loves his wife and his children. I am convinced he does not love America.
Right.
There's no question in my mind. Okay, on the other side of the coin, you have a guy that we're not electing a pastor of our church.
Right.
We're electing a president. All right. Okay, so his Christian views may differ slightly from yours, but he's a good man, and the main thing is he loves America. So given the two choices, I want somebody that loves my country and is not systematically trying to destroy my country, which this man over here is. There's no question about that. So what is our choice? To me, I'm going to take a shot. Okay, we'll try again in 4 years maybe. We'll see if we can't get it done in 4 years. Maybe we can get Ryan to run for president, or maybe we can get Michelle or Sarah Palin or somebody. But until then, let's stop the bleeding. Yeah. And the exact analogy I've been using is you're in the emergency room, you have a knife in your stomach, and your carotid artery's cut. They're going to work on the carotid artery first because that's what's getting ready to kill you. So I say let's stop the bleeding and put Romney in there.
Ken Crow is one of our guests today. He's the co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com. That is a brand new Facebook-style website coming up for Tea Party members. He's also the vice president of Restoring America Project.org. You've seen some of their ads over and over on TV. And also the man that's applying for the job of your state legislator in District 26, which is in Warren County, Steve McCoy. No, he's not my twin brother from a different mother, and we're not related. But boy, some people might think so.
The last name is very similar, and the facial hair, the white, looks very similar, Mac. Honestly, when I drove by and I saw Steve's first sign, I said, my goodness, Mac's running for something that I didn't realize. Although, as I say, my better sense took hold within seconds, and I realized that you weren't running for anything.
Right, I run from.
That's right.
That's what I do. I run from. Let's talk about, well, we've only got 2 minutes here. So when we come back, I want to talk about where Christ is in the Tea Party. If someone is on the outside thinking that the Republican Party is no longer the basis of their beliefs and they have a hard time following it, they know they're not a liberal. They know they're not a Democrat, so they're looking at the Tea Party, and their number one thing in their life is Jesus. I want to talk about, when we come back from the break, where Christ sits in the middle of the Tea Party.
Absolutely.
All right, Tom Coates is in the house today along with Steve McCoy and, of course, Ken Crow, who's the co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com and the vice president of RestoringAmericaProject.org. Now, if you want to hear different opinions than these guys on this very same subject, Dan, you've got a great guest tonight who wrote a book called Christ in the Voting Booth.
Yeah.
Right? David Shedlock.
Yeah, we got David Shedlock coming on tonight.
And tell me what you guys are going to talk about tonight with him on your show.
We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I don't know. I haven't scheduled it with him what we're going to talk about. It's kind of an open forum.
Okay. Well, David's a devout Christian who wrote a book, like I said, called Christ in the Voting Booth, and he's got some real good thoughts on how we should be voting. And he said something, Tom, the other day that I want to add real quick. He said that he feels polls are false prophets. Polls are the biblical equal to false prophets.
We were saying a month ago not to pay much attention to most of these polls, and now we're saying look at the polls. The Democrats are saying quit looking at the polls.
We're coming back. We're live here on WebcastOneLive.com and KTIA, Iowa.
Because you know what they did to Paul.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Ever feel like there's more to life? God offers more. Chat now with an online coach at groundwire.net.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
3:38, 22 before the top on this, the 18th day of October in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Thursday edition of The View from a Pew. Tom Coates in the house, along with our special guest, Ken Crow, co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com and vice president of RestoringAmericaProject.org. Also, Steve McCoy, no relation, different sons from a mother. Twin sons from a... Oh, well, never mind.
No relation. No relation.
No relation, spelled differently. He's applying for the job as your state legislator in District 26.
By the way, how's that race going, Steve? We haven't asked you how you think the race is going.
I think it's going very well. We have some problems because we do happen to have a registered Republican who is supporting my opponent with yard signs in her yard, and who's actively trying to recruit Republicans to vote for my opponent.
And why would that be?
Well, I think probably the truth of the matter is she didn't like losing in the primary.
Oh. So she's a sore loser.
That's my guess.
Is this somebody that's not as conservative as you are, so perhaps can ideologically relate to a Democrat more than you?
Well, she's someone who claims to be conservative, and she has said that she's not supporting me because I am too pro-life.
Too pro-life?
Too pro-life, I see.
How can you be too pro-life?
That was my question.
No exceptions, I guess.
But, don't support someone who's too pro-life, but let's support someone who is anti-life.
Absolutely, probably right down the line.
That makes a lot of sense.
Amazing.
That's right. Say, we've got a race I live in Norwalk. We've got a race in our backyard. Katie Routh and Julian Garrett. What do you know about that race?
Oh, I think Julian's going to take that. I saw Julian the other night, and I said, Julian, next time you have an event with Superman's mom, you should walk in. I said, go get yourself a box of Reynolds wrap, pull out a big chunk, wad it up, spray it green, take it in, set it on the table.
Kryptonite.
I'm going to tell you, I know Julian Garrett, and that is one more honorable man. I really, really like Julian
I
Garrett.
concur with that. I know Julian. I've known
He's a
Julian
good
for
man.
years, too, yes.
But to answer your question, I feel very good about it. To be honest, I don't worry either way. This was Glenn Massey's seat. He asked me to do this. He thought I was the person to do it. I told Glenn, I said, Glenn, I don't want to do this. Look, I'm 67 years old. I got 16 grandkids. I want to spend my time reading books, painting pictures, and playing with my kids. I said, why would I want to do this?
George Washington didn't want to be a general
I told him I would pray about it. I prayed about it for 8 months. I've got the green light. Win, lose, or draw, I don't really care because this is a path the Lord has me on. And if he wants me on that wall, I'll be on the wall.
Okay.
Amen, brother.
Congratulations, and I'm pleased that guys like you are willing to take up that mantle. I think it's a cross that you bear, and as you say, I bet you didn't really want to do it, and you were prepared to do it though, and step forward as you were called. I congratulate you for that.
He's got the right motivation.
He's principled.
Yeah, he's principled, and he wants to serve. He doesn't want to get caught up in the Jello jump and all the muck down there, but somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
And, the Lord calls you at 5, 55, whatever it makes.
Well, and I mentioned Governor Branstad. I don't know that he particularly wanted to. He's making $500,000 pretty easy being the president of Des Moines University. Yep. He could have finished out his productive years a lot easier in what he's doing.
You bet.
Take a big pay cut and a whole lot more flack for stepping up.
And
but
forget what Chris wanted. Chris Branstad didn't want to
the interesting thing about that was, you remember those flyers that came out bashing Branstad? Some people suspected Steve Dace and some of his minions were behind it. I don't know if that's true, but it just had the opposite effect. I was told that the flyer was taken by Branstad, and he showed Chris what kind of half-truths and lies they were telling about him on these flyers. She became irate, and at that point, she went from saying, no, I don't want you to run, to, you've got to run. We can't turn the party over to these kind of people. So that had just the opposite effect. It got her, and without her on board, I don't know if he would have run.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. Ken, as the co-founder of the TeaPartyCommunity.com and vice president of RestoringAmericaProject.org, talk to us about what, and you can either speak officially for the party or just as yourself. I don't care either one. I don't want to put you in a bad position. Where does Christ live within the Tea Party?
I'm going to speak for the party because he's very, very prominent in everything we do. If you go to a rally, for instance, the first thing they do, and Steve over here has been to many, many rallies, and he's a staple and a solid Tea Party and a good citizen. You go to one of these rallies, the very first thing they do is they do the Pledge of Allegiance, with God included in the Pledge of Allegiance. then they sing the national anthem, and then they open with a prayer. And we always have a local pastor. Any rally you go to will have a prominent local pastor there that'll lead that rally in prayer. And these are people that are trying to go back to our roots, which was based on God. We want the 10 Commandments back in the courthouses. We want the children saying a morning prayer or having a moment of silence or whatever in the mornings. And I call it garbage. Our society is rapidly spinning downhill. And the Tea Party Nation, if you will, sees that, and they're sick of it. And Christ is at the forefront of everything. I'm doing what I'm doing today. It's like I told you a while ago, I haven't drawn a paycheck in 3 years because I love my country, and I feel like I'm being called to do this. And that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm speaking and writing and blogging and doing everything I do.
Now, you talk about these things like the 10 Commandments and prayers and everything being back into our society. What do you say to that person who says, so what are you going to do for the Muslims? What are you going to do for the Hindus? What are you going to do for other religions that come in and say, we're a part of this country too? We want our 10 Commandments. We want our religion. We want our prophet, our Savior at the forefront.
Wow, tough question. My initial response, Tom's shaking his head. Wow, what a question.
I'm glad you're answering that.
Mr. Coates, could I get your response on that, please?
I'll give you my answer. I don't. If a Muslim wants to pray, let them pray. I'm not telling them they can't pray. If a Hindu wants to pray, let them pray. I'm not telling them they can't pray. Our nation was founded, if you go back and you read George Washington's diaries and his writings, you read John Adams, you read our founding fathers and the basic tenets this nation was founded on, it was founded on Christianity. This is a Christian nation. I love the response that the Prime Minister of Australia gave a couple of years ago to all of these very questions that you're referring to. They said, look, they're welcome. They can come live here. But they're going to be Australians, and they're going to adhere to our society. We're not changing because of you. We're going to allow you in. We'll be nice. We'll be polite. But we're not going to change what we are. And that's what's happening in America today. America is changing to acquiesce to little fringe groups that are the squeakiest wheels getting the oil, and it's killing the rest of us.
That's right. You're exactly
right.
You can
That's my response.
Well, guys, you can look at Europe, too. I mean, there's so many European countries that have had open borders immigration policies that they're being stomped out. I mean, the birth-to-death rate is swinging so hard for the Muslims that France and some of those other countries are in a position where they're going to be the minority population in the not-too-distant future. And that's why they are starting to wake up, but it may be too late for them. It may not be too late for us, but I think some of those European countries is probably too late for them.
You know, there's something that gets left out of this when we entertain questions like that. And what gets left out is, what is America? You know, how was America formed? We have two primary documents. You want to finish, Mike?
Yeah, I want you to hold that thought.
Okay. Yeah.
Two primary documents.
Right.
We're going to come back for our last break, and because I want to hear what you have to say, but we were going to run out of time. Steve McCoy, he's applying for the job in House District 26. That's Warren County, no relation. And Ken Crow, co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com and vice president of Restoring America Project.org. Along with Tom Coates, they're my guests today, and thanks for listening to 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
In Barack Obama's health care plan, he forced businesses to pay for abortions. Under Mitt Romney's instituted health care in the state of Massachusetts, they allowed for up to a $0 copay in state-funded abortion. J. Michael McCoy has never voted for or signed into law any pro-choice bill. How is Paul Ryan going to help reduce the deficit? He doesn't know. He hasn't checked the numbers. Barack Obama and Joe Biden have effectively quadrupled the deficit. Tom Coates is a proven fiscal conservative whose business is debt reduction. Don't call it a comeback, but this team is going to be moving forward. J. Michael McCoy and Tom Coates.
I'm J. Michael McCoy, and I'm running for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Americans who want better choices and the I'm not voting for any of these clowns super PAC.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise...
In Barack Obama's health care plan, he forced business...
Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, and it's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Welcome back, 10 before the top, and True Blue at 4:03 after the Salem Radio Network, hosted by Pastor Michael Mudloff.
He's the star.
Pastor didn't like me saying star.
He's a superstar.
So I'm hosting.
He's a superstar, Mac.
I know he is.
He didn't want to be called star. He wanted to be addressed as superstar.
He just took Elvis' Star of Fame on the Walk in Hollywood. That's how big he is.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. All right. You were saying, Steve, continue.
Well, there's two primary documents, and most of the conversation today always centers on one of the documents, the Constitution. But that's not the primary document. The primary document is the Declaration of Independence. And quite honestly, up until 1913, both of those documents were always seen as one document, two sides of a different coin. And why is that important? Because the Declaration of Independence is the moral law of our country. The Constitution is the secular law of our country. If you read the Declaration, it fully explains that the purpose of the Constitution, and I like to try to make people understand that even in more simple terms, if I'm going to be a representative, I am an employee. So what is the Constitution? It is an employee's handbook. It gives you the requirements for being an employee. It tells you what you can do and what you can't do. That's how simple the Constitution is. And we have the Constitution because, as it says in the Declaration, purpose of the Constitution is to protect the unalienable rights granted to us by our Creator. And that has left out of the conversation completely, i.e., that's why we bring in other religions and we bring in an emotive conversation and try to get people excited and get on one side of the issue or the other. People fall back on their paradigms. You never make any headway in talking with them because they're locked up in their paradigm. And we have to begin to ask questions that are cognitive in nature and cause people to think about things. And once we do that, we'll be able to turn a lot of things around real quickly.
All right, you said the Constitution is the employee handbook.
Yes.
The second document is?
Well, the Constitution is the second document. The first document is the Declaration, which is the moral law of our country. This Constitution is the secular law of our country.
Okay.
And if the Declaration is the moral law, then all of these proponents who are trying to advocate Sharia law, and they're all worried about it, there's no reason to be worried about that if you just go back to the Declaration, which is the moral law, which sets the foundation for everything. There can be no other law over that.
But I agree with you, but there's a lot of people out there that don't, and they're on the liberal Democratic side, and they're trying to throw both of those documents out the window, and in fact, in many ways have.
Well, you're exactly right, and that has what has evolved in our country. And, you know, people, we sit around here and think that we have a two-party system. We don't have a two-party system. We have a three-party system. One party is the Republicans, one is the Democrats, one is the Progressive, which is consisting of both Democrats and Republicans. It's the Progressive Party movement ideology that has put this country where it is today. And what they do, they emotively pit the Democrats against the Republicans and let them exercise all their emotion out there so that they can continue on with their programs. It's been going on for over 100 years, and that's why we have what we have today. And it's time for people who have any morality at all, any foundational roots of constitutional basis, to stand up and start standing for the truth, be principled, be courageous, be firm, and go forward with that.
Do you think young people understand that? Is this where we lost this in the generation that came after me? Did I do a bad job with my kids?
You did not do a bad job. The education did a bad system.
I mean, government schools.
Government schools, because what the progressive movement did, I mean, just even recently, I saw a report where George Soros, one of his political action groups, I can't remember the name of it, but they actually made this statement. Well, you know, we can cut education if we can get rid of some of these programs that really aren't important. So we shouldn't allow our schools to teach about the Constitution. We shouldn't allow them to teach about American history, and we shouldn't allow them to teach about economics. Well, why would we want that eliminated? Because those three factors will bear witness of the failures of progressivism. So let's not have them as part of the curriculum, and we can begin to shape the minds of the kids so that they don't even know. But I guarantee you, if you can spend time with a young person and sit down without intimidating them and explain to them the simple basis of life, they pick it up. They understand it. Part and parcel of why Ron Paul has been so successful with the young people, because he has been able to get that message across to the young people, and they flock to him.
Do you think, I want to ask this carefully, should Ron Paul have been a higher consideration for Romney's vice presidential ticket?
My personal opinion.
Thank you, Ken. Ken said no to Dan's
my
yes.
personal opinion. Although a lot of people like Ryan, and I don't have a lot of difficulty. I don't know him that well, but if we want to play quote politics, I think Romney should have picked Rand Paul, and he would have unified that force that is out there, that is young, excited, full of energy, and I think this would be a landslide victory.
But Ryan is your guy, right?
He's
a Tea Party guy, right?
I don't think he's
not that.
He's familiar with the Tea Party, and he has some of their concepts, but you know, who else you going to pick? What were the other candidates?
Right.
Well, he's a little bit more balanced than the old man.
Ryan wasn't hardcore Tea Party. He's like a moderate Tea Party.
What percentage?
He's a fiscal Tea Party for sure.
What percentage, if you go 1 to 100%, where's Paul Ryan on the Tea Party scale?
Probably 80, 85.
Okay. All right. And Rand Paul would be in that area?
102.
No, not Ron Paul. Rand Paul.
Yeah, Rand Paul. He's a fire breather, too.
Okay.
They love him.
All right.
Tea Party loves him.
All right.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you being here today. District 26 candidate Steve McCoy, no relation, from Warren County, and Ken Crow, co-founder of TeaPartyCommunity.com. Check that out. And Vice President, RestoringAmericaProject.org. I love your comparison on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. The Constitution is an employee handbook, and the Declaration of Independence is our moral law. I'm going to remember that. Thank you, sir. Tom, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Enjoyed having the guys on.
Mr. Tattoo, thank you for being here. Your show tonight is at 8:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30. Tonight, 8, right here at webcastonelive.com. We'll see you later. And again, don't forget to pray. Good night.